Hey guys, so today I want to make a video on pretty much a complete or near finished guide on practically all the Atlas strats in the New League. So everything ranging from like the low to mid-range strats to all the high-end strats. Because yeah, once again, there's no real scale-up changes in this patch. So all the Atlas strats from last league and the league before are still just as good, besides the ones that have been nerfed. You know, stuff like Abyss Hordes is gone, or exile, stuff like that, right? So I have this full sheet right here and this full notepad to go over everything about Atlas strats, pretty much like the ultimate Atlas farm strat guide that you will need. This is not done either. This will be done before league start, but I have more stuff to add. I'll just make sure to update all the strats and every single strat that I do know. Yeah, pretty much this video will cover practically every single currency form that will exist next league. The only currency form that we won't really know is Breach. Obviously, Breach is the X factor. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? What's the most optimal way to form it? We won't know until the league comes. But everything else is pretty much like stock standard at this point because, yeah, there's no Atlas changes and there's no scare-up changes. Well, the changes are just nerfs. So, but yeah, it won't essentially introduce new farms besides Breach itself. It's just taking away some farms that we did have. Most of this should pretty much be solid is what I'm saying. Nothing here should really change because, yeah, there is no new scare-up changes. So let's just get to it. Yeah, so there's like week 1 farms and beyond. So it's not just week 1. A lot of these are also really good beyond week 1 as well, as long with some recommended builds as well, depending on what you're playing. So let's just start from the top. So we have Legion. Obviously, this is one of my favorites. Very, very strong day 1 and day 2. Kind of falls off day 3, day 4, day 5. When it comes like week 2 again, emblems go back up in price. It becomes pretty good again. And even like late league, like a month, 2 months in, emblems get pretty expensive. But do keep in mind, emblems aren't the main profit of Legion. It's everything that drops from Legion itself. But yeah, anyway, Wanderers, Bows, Kobalash, Miners, anything with great clear is just really good at Legion. And also this will be true for the Breach mechanic as well. Essence. Any build can do Essence, but being faster is better. You usually want to farm Essence and Yellow Mask because they can be quite hard. Once again, I do have all the trees on here if you want to check them out. I'll link the sheet below. But yeah, all the PoE planners and all the scarabs and what maps you run, what you run on Keurig, all that. So make sure to read this because this will help you out. But yeah, any build can run Essence. It's very, very easy. Not the highest currency an hour, but can be pretty decent. Ambush containment, viable for any build, but you need to be tier 17 viable. This is where it's the most profit, at least in week 1. You can do it in tier 60.5, but tier 17 is just better for this strategy. But yeah, very, very strong. Going to be definitely one of the best strats next league. Harbinger, usually like an okay mid-tier to low-tier strat. Any build is viable for this, but obviously stuff like Prolift builds excel here. Stuff like Arf Chieftain or Poison Prolift are really good at clearing, but any build can do this. You can do these in like white tier 16 maps, but usually I would Alk or 8 mod them because the Harbinger mobs do drop more loot. But the Harbinger itself is not affected by, stuff like map quant, which is where most of the profit does come from. Next, we have Harvest. So Harvest, there's a few different Harvest strats. There's like a, Alk can go tier 16, tier 6.5, and like Giga Juice tier 17 Harvest strats. But just talking in general for Harvest, you do need decent damage and tank stats, but you don't really need any clear speed to do Harvest. But you want like a nice tanky and high damage stat because sometimes the beasts can be quite tanky and they can also do a lot of damage. So stuff like Slans, Viper Strike on the Mamba, E-Blade, really good damage builds, really good tank builds. You don't really need clear here, so these are pretty good in this form. Well, any build can do Harvest as well. It's just these are the builds that really excel in it. Ultimatum, Cast One Sun Chieftain, of course. I went over this build in tier list. Very, very strong build for Ultimatum, but it's only meant for Ultimatum at the same time. Expedition. So any build can do Expedition with enough gear, but the league start, when you're pretty weak, you're not that strong, you really want to be a specialized build. So Prolift builds are very, very strong here. What are Prolift builds? Poison Prolifts like Viper Strike of the Mamba, Ignite Chieftain, stuff like that. Ignite Elementalist. Prolift builds are very, very strong in Expedition early on. That means stop-based builds as well. So yeah, Xang, Peacock, RF, Mamba, builds like that are really excelled Expedition. Once again, any build can do Expedition, but if you really want to specialize and focus on Expedition, I would recommend like a dot-based Prolift build. Blight, there's a few different Blight forms, of course, but just for like generic Blight, any build can do it, once again, especially with enough damage. But stuff like Minions are pretty good at Blight, Prolift builds once again. But yeah, I mean, any build with damage can do Blight. It's not that hard. The Giga Hard Juice Blight that we did last league does not exist this patch anymore, so it's not a big deal. Destructive play, so stuff like Twisted, Deform, 10 Weights, whatever. You need decent clear speed and good boss damage if you want to do this at a fast pace early on. I think stuff like Slams and Mamba, Wander can also be here as well if you have good single target. But yeah, you want to be able to rush to the boss fast, kill the boss fast, and then kill, whatever boss you're doing, like a Shaper boss or whatever. You want to do it as fast as possible, so you do really want that good single target damage. Tier 17 rush. So this is like people are aiming for tier 17 stay 1, 12 to 16 hours in, 20 hours in, whatever it is. Slams, Mamba, General's Cry, Mines of ZHP. These are all pretty great tier 17 rushers. Wanderers might also be here. Once again, we still don't have the full gym info. It's not out yet. If Wanderers like kinetic rate's absolutely insane, then Wanderers could also be here as well. But yeah, a lot of builds can obviously do tier 17. Like I said, I will do tier 17s on Wanderers, but it's not a build that's meant to like rush it. Like, you know, Slams can do tier 17s like 8-9 hours in as soon as they can get the map, because they really are just that front loaded strong. They're very, very high DPS early on in the game with very bad gear, which makes them great for tier 17 boss rushing at the start of the league. Deli Paranoia. This is just pretty much just a fast clear speed build, and nothing else really matters here. It's a map/hour strat. So once again, any build can do this, but to get the most amount of profit and maximize your profit an hour, you want to be a very fast clear speed build. You know, stuff like a Wander here, for example, a Bow build, even like RF Chieftain, right? Slams could be decent here too. But yeah, it's mostly, you know, map/hour strat, so higher clear speed is going to be more profit. Beginner strategy here, altars/heist box, magic mobs. It's just like a very generic, very, very easy beginner strat. Any build can do this, but it's pretty similar to that of Delay Paranoia, where it's map/hour. Stuff like KB Wander, Bow, stuff like that will excel the most in this, but anyone can do it. It's a nice beginner Atlas strat that you can do as soon as you hit tier 16 maps and have like, you know, 100 Atlas points. Stack deck ritual form. Once again, any build is viable for this, but you know, fast is obviously better. It's really, really easy. All you do is form a stack decks and you use the ritual to respawn these stack deck monsters to farm, you know, more stack decks. Also, listen to Atlas sheet here again. If you want to do yourself, it's not that great of a strategy. It's usually somewhere around like 10D an hour, but it's a pretty, you know, chill tier 16 farm strat, brain off, not much to it. Some people like doing it, so I did include it. It is very, very low investment with, you know, pretty decent profits. And then, you know, last one I'll talk about for this at least is the cluster farm in tier 17, usually farming eye level 84 clusters. Stuff like the reservation cluster can be worth anywhere up to like, you know, 4, 6, 8 divines, depending on the time of the league. This is also any build viable, but you need to be strong enough to cure tier 17 boss in Delirium. So do keep that in mind. This is like a more of a higher end strat sometimes. And then quickly go over some non-mapping strategies. So Sanctum, Simulacrums, Ravage Blade, 5-way farmer, and Heist. These are all very, very high viable, you know, non-mapping strategies. For Sanctum, at league start, you want to be looking at P-Brand or P-Conk. For Simulacrum, you want to be looking for Cast Wind Sun Chieftain or Prolift build / good coverage builds. You're looking for at least 6 average waves each. That's how you know when you have a good Simulacrum build. Ravage Blade, any build can do Ravage Blade, but stuff like Minions, Prolift builds, and any good clear speed build or coverage build can do Ravage Blade. 5-way farmer, this is pretty much exclusive to KB Wander and Bows. If you're not one of these two builds, you probably don't want to be farming 5-ways. They just do it just so exceptional at it, and the price is pretty much based around these. Usually requires Inspired Learning, if not Headhunter. Does increase your profit quite a bit. But having 2 Inspired, you can easily start doing 5-way farms. It is actually a really high profit farm early on. It is just quite boring, but yeah, it is very, very good. Heist, once again, viable for any builds, but the top end heisters are usually like ZPS with extremely high movement speed, because Heist is just doing it as fast as possible. You don't really care for killing mobs, but anyone can do Heist at the start of the league to get some nice, you know, 100 to 200 chaos starter currency if you want to do that. So yeah, also I would watch my tier list video from a few days ago, because I do go over all the content creators that are playing these different type of builds. So if you're interested in, you know, playing Cast Wind Sun Chieftain or Slams, check out that video. I recommend who to watch and what build creator to follow if you want to play those type of builds. But yeah, once again, I'm going to have this full sheet updated before league launch, every single good strat that I know of. And the only X factor here is how good Breach is for next league, because besides that, every other strat here is going to stay the same. These are mostly trying and true strats for like a year now, because nothing else is really much changing. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. If any questions, feel free to comment below. But yeah, I do want this full Atlas sheet done before league launch, which it will be. But yep,